Hey guys, and welcome to Roulette Reviews, the series where we spin our wheel of genres to then spin our wheel of movies to find a film to watch and review. Let's see what we get this time. Okay, so here we have our genre wheel, and I'm actually kind of in the mood for sci-fi, but I'm not really sure. And we get fantasy, just on the cusp of a thriller. Okay, here's our fantasy wheel. And we have Millennium Actress. So Millennium Actress was selected to be on the wheel from its inclusion on the Letterboxd Top 250 Narrative Features list at 230. It's directed by Satoshi Kon, who has made movies I've liked before. Paprika and Perfect Blue are incredible movies, so I wasn't massively hesitant to get into this, though I don't typically watch anime. The film's about this documentary crew of two making a documentary about Chiyoko Fujiwara, a famous, now retired and aging and reclused actress, but that isn't really what the film is about. The film is about Chiyoko's quest for true love. She helps this man evade prosecution very early on in the movie from this brutalist military force, and in hiding him, he gives her this key. She asks the man she just met to not tell her what the key is for, except for the clue. It's the most important thing there is. Later on, she finds the key without the man and spends the rest of her life trying to reunite the key with the man, trying to find out what is the most important thing there is. And though she never finds out what the key is for, she does find what the most important thing there is was, which was love and memory. It's simple but beautiful. Now, being a Satoshi Kon film, I do expect a certain level of quality, and I gotta say, the animation isn't as mind-bending or as fantastically beguiling as his more notable works, but there is a passive beauty to this that makes every frame consistently pleasing enough. I also love how the documentary pair fall into her flashbacks and into her past movies. It's a super interesting way to keep them involved in the story whilst never breaking the fantastical elements for a splice of reality unless it's needed. This also allows the film to use her filmography to tell the story of her life, using each cornerstone of her career as metaphors for her actual journey. It's a beautiful story device that sets this film apart from others like it, and it creates its own identity. And though it is paced fairly adequately, some sequences do linger a bit too long, and sometimes the film appears so lost in its metaphor it forgets to progress, meaning it outlives its welcome slightly. So around the 40-minute mark, it becomes a bit of a slog, but it does pick back up shortly after the hour mark all the way to the end. It has some beautiful final moments, an emotional core that really pulls the threads together, and I'm going to pick up a copy of this if I see it while I'm out. So this is going to be the first entry on the Roulette Reviews tier list, and I'm going to slot it firmly into the B tier. Though it's very well made and has some big highlights, the pacing issues along with its tendency to lose the narrative occasionally does hurt it for me personally. Plus, it isn't as consistently beautiful as I'm used to with Satoshi's work, but regardless, it is a good film and one I'd recommend to anyone into anime. Okay, since I figured we have time, I think we should spin one more time and get one more movie. So we're back at our genre wheel and we get thriller. Nearly another fantasy. Okay, now at the thriller wheel, let's see what we get. Prisoners. Prisoners is a movie I have seen before, and this was pulled from the IMDb Top 250 and the Letterboxd Top 250 lists at spots 157 and 150 respectively, but this is also one I own. It's directed by Denis Villeneuve, and though this isn't my favourite from him, I have seen it a fair few times and I think it's fantastic. Roger Deakins received an Oscar nomination for the cinematography of this movie, but there was almost no Academy Award recognition for Villeneuve himself, Aaron Guzikowski for the script, or the cast, which shocks me because the one thing everyone agrees on with this film, whether they love it or don't, is that Hugh Jackman is stellar in it, but the cast all round is amazing, from Jake Gyllenhaal, Terrence Howard, Paul Dano, Viola Davis, Maria Bello and Melissa Leo. Every aspect comes together in perfect synchronicity to build up one of the most suspenseful thrillers of all time, and it builds that intensity immediately. From the deer hunt to the kidnapping into the first interrogation and beyond. Also, side note, look how crazy Jake Gyllenhaal is blinking in this movie. Why is this about? I appreciate the brevity of this story. We don't spend a lot of time getting to know this family or these kids. We get some simple introduction and then we immediately get the mystery going, which is super complex, but the film weaves it together effortlessly and in a way that anyone in the audience can follow. It's an underrated aspect of mystery storytelling. It also gives you all the pieces of not just the mystery, but where the story goes in general and all the minor little things necessary to making the overall narrative work. It's completely tight and concise storytelling, which I appreciate, and makes the ending obvious on a rewatch but completely oblivious on a first. Now, Villeneuve going from this to where he is now with Blade Runner 2049 and the Dune movies is quite astonishing and commendable. I think the first Dune is where he hits his best blend between grandiose cinematography and storytelling, which he loses quite a bit on Dune 2 for me. It becomes so much more about the spectacle, and Prisoners is the opposite of that to me. This is all about the story. There is next to no spectacle at all, which works excellently for this movie. And it poses some interesting questions on morality in a situation like this. What makes someone a good person? Can circumstances change those parameters? It never comes to a conclusion, and I think that's best. It lets the audience decide for themselves on those questions. It also poses the question, who are the prisoners the title refers to? The kids? Alex? Keller? Because as Donnie Yen tells us,
there is more than one sort of prison, Captain. I sense that you carry yours wherever you go.
the film ends on a cliffhanger, but I think one that works super well since we can estimate with fair certainty where it goes, which really isn't the point anyway. So I'm gonna drop this into the A tier on our tier list. It's an incredible movie that isn't one of my personal favorites, but it's difficult to pick any fault with. But that's just me. Have you seen either of these movies? If so, let me know what you think. If not, will you? And whether it's a film randomly selected in our roulette reviews or not. As always, keep watching movies.